Thanks for tapping in with 95 South TV, hosted by Ikone and KJ, bringing you the best news and media through the efforts of the community. We interview nonprofit organizations, business owners, school teachers, spiritual leaders, and anybody who has an impact in the community that has a remarkable backstory. These professionals that we bring on this show has a story that will wow you, that will knock your socks off. And with that being said, we want you to tune in, keep it locked. We want you to like, share, follow, and subscribe. Be a dedicated listener. Come in, and if you require to do an interview, you can definitely reach out to us at 95southpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you for your ongoing.
What's going on? What's going on? It's your boy Ikone, and we on 95 South TV. Once again, first and foremost, I want to thank God for this opportunity because without Him, it would be no us to be able to have this great platform to be able to do these great interviews. And secondly, I want to introduce my right hand man, your baby mama favorite host. You know what I'm saying, Mr. Cowboy himself, Jacob the Great. What's going on, fam?
Hey man, another day, another chance to get it right. Glad to be in the land of the living, man. Let's go.
Yes, Thursday, Thursday today, man. Listen, bro. You know, we've been doing this show for a minute, about 5 years now. But today, man, we
Yeah,
got a living legend. Me and you both grew up off of Jay, Bean, Memphis, Dame, all these guys. But the voice of it was this guy. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
And then when we got in the building, we got the legendary Rell. What's going on, brother?
Man, it's y'all world, but I'm in it tonight. Trust. Salute to everybody. How y'all feeling?
Man, we good, man. I
Good, good.
appreciate you coming on. Look,
Thanks for
man,
having
hey, I'm just go ahead and say it off the rip, man. I was listening to that Remedy album, and I'm sitting there listening, like, okay. And then you said a line where you said something about, the current situation back when you was back with Rockefeller. You had a line about the rock or whatever, and I said, hold on. I called Vibes and I said, Verb. I said, this is an old album, a new album. He said, this album supposed to came out on one, but he just dropped it today. And this was like 2 days ago. I said, why this joint don't sound dated? I said, this joint sound like it need to be out right now anyway. So it threw me for a loop because you don't get that every day. You don't get today the R&B. Because think about me and Jacob, man. We A&Rs with block runners, so we get new R&B music in all day long. We on this live every night, listen, reviewing music, and we don't hear authentic R&B. So I just want to get right into it, man. Oh, shout out to my sister that just jumped on, Queen Taylor. But I just want to go ahead and get right into it. Of what is real R&B to you?
um real R&B to me is just something that you can innately feel. It's soulful, and it resonates as a form of spiritual therapy, for the vessel. That's R&B in its purest form to me.
Okay, okay.
Right.
So after we said that, let's go back from the beginning because the thing about it, what you don't may not realize, my brother, he from Saluda. I'm from North Carolina.
Wow.
My cuz up here in the corner, Queen Taylor, she from North Carolina. So
Wow.
we all from basically from the crib.
Say
You
less.
know what I'm saying? So what was it like trying to and so we gonna all understand each other when we say this. We know how hard it is to come out of the South, especially when you come from small towns. So how hard was it, and what was your navigational system to try to get out of there to end up where you ended up with the rock?
Wow. My navigational system, the short answer was a group by the name of Finesse from Orangeburg. They were talented. They had a Take Six harmony, but they had a Jodeci swag. And, that was something at that time you didn't find. It was either one or the other in a group. And they seemed to have both. Um, and it was that group that I took to while I was in school at South Carolina State, studying pre-med. They heard me at a freshman talent show, and we bonded from that moment. I was sitting in the rehearsals, and while I was doing my studying, and it went from studying to be a doctor to being bit by that bug and wanting to pursue music full throttle. Music had always been in my family, so that was the first piece of motivation that I had. Everybody in my family sang. We had the church for a platform. But when Finesse came along, that was my first time really being able to focus on the secular aspect of music. Up until that point, y'all from the South, so y'all already know there's not a lot of platforms for, talent and talent showcase. The church is your platform. If you
That's
had a
right.
stage, you could sing, if you could play an instrument, usually you were in the church, honing that skill and showcasing or making your little change, whatever it was that you was doing. The church was basically ground zero, for that. So I'm gonna say without that group, it would have been much harder because they were my first opportunity, to like I said, really just zone out and focus on secular music primarily. And with that and their know-how, they had seen New York already. They had seen certain aspects of the industry already. And it just so happened that a few of them were home. But the next time they left home, I went with them. So that's the long answer to your question. It's, it was that opportunity to be a part of a special group that was, they would die hard about positioning themselves in New York and getting a deal. And so that's where it started, really, for me. So salute the Finesse, my brothers. That's King Malachi. Y'all know him as that now. Mimi Green, Brian Dantzler, he's in Atlanta. Rest in peace, Travis Wright. Those four brothers, and Jawan Adams here in New Jersey. He's the fifth. And so together it's six of us. But Jawan and I were group members at different times. So it was always a five-man thing. Jawan was a member first, one of the founding members. And I came along years later, to just kind of fill in that missing void that the fifth man would bring. And so the rest from that point was, history. It was just, I stuck with the same people we met. Those same people put me in position with, Dame Dash, the very Dame Dash that I signed to. And, we made it work from there. It wasn't the, we made a good situation great. It wasn't that everything was lined up for me to win or sell a lot of records. It was just Dame, he respected the work ethic. He took a liking to me, and you know he said he gave me an opportunity to be a part of RocaFella's platform. So in those two ways, those two regards, that's how it went. And so it would have been much harder. It was a grind with the group, but it would have been much harder, for me to make it as an artist had I not been a part of that group. So
hold on. Back up for a second. So you met Dame. How did you able to meet Dame? Did you have to go to New York? Did he come to South
oh
Carolina?
no. Like I said, the first time I left home was with the group. I had to convince my mom that that this was worth it. And once I was able to do that, the first time I left home was with them. And I met the people that they were affiliated with. A production house, management. That whole infrastructure. They gave me a crash course on prior to getting there, and so I met those people. And we were with Top 10 for about 2 years. It was an agreement that we had. We signed a production deal with them. And within that 2 years, I had to go back to South Carolina. I had some family things come up that, I've always been the man in the situation. I tried to be. So, I had to go back home and kind of make sure that things was a little better situated, for my for my family, for my close family, mom, brothers and sisters, and just myself overall. But so when I went back the second time, it was probably after being in South Carolina for a year and a half. I went back up. But that time when I went back up, I went to the same people to pursue it again as a solo artist, because Finesse was no longer signed, in agreement with them, and they had moved on to other ventures. And I felt right at home with Top 10 and with that situation. So as opposed to finding the bros or pursuing what they had going on, I stayed in house and I began to hone skills as a writer, as a producer. Started to break the ice on that and just work my way around the studio, learn studio dynamics and how to be a studio vocalist, and because it's much different from singing church. Dynamics, they don't play as much of a part when you're in an open room with a microphone in your hand, but in a vocal booth, you know, um, that's when you realize how great guys like Luther Vandross and Freddie Jackson and Peebo Bryson, and that's how and Stokely from Men Can Do. You remember, you realize dynamically speaking how talented these guys are vocally, and so yeah, all those crash courses got me prepared for Dame. And
Cool, cool. Go ahead, Jacob.
that was how I
Yeah.
met him.
So Peace King. I
Peace.
just want to say salute to you. I'm from Saluda, South Carolina. You from Bowman, South Carolina. I definitely
Luda.
know about the Bowman. Yes, sir. I know about the Bowman area, and I definitely know about the dynamic of South Carolina State University and how much talent is out there. And I come to learn who Finesse was the group through a legendary DJ by the name of DJ Prince Ice. And
Precise.
yes, sir. And so
Precise.
with me learning, and then I said, man, I'm watching. I'm watching State Property, and I tell my brother, I said, man, ain't that Rell from the group Finesse? He said,
Yeah.
Mo, that's most definitely Rell. You know what I mean? And so I said, man, he just he just took off like a 747 jet, man. And
Wow.
just the first of all, I just want to say, man, we the fam here in South Carolina are definitely proud of you, man.
Thank
Kind of remind me, you welcome. Kind of remind me of how the two greats from South Carolina took off. Fella by the name of you just named Peebo Bryson and my man Glenn Jones. You know what I
Wow.
mean? And
Yeah.
along with you're right, and along with Angie Stone, and you know what I mean, the great Angie Stone, R.I.P. from
Big.
Columbia,
Yeah.
South
Yeah.
Carolina. Yeah. So man, how is it? How was it working? In a time frame in New York when you had people like Intro, when you had people like Keith Sweat, but you also had the Rock, because what the Rock was able to do was unheard of on the East Coast. So
Right.
so for you to fit in that equation, Streets is watching and King Knock the Hustle and all the time that these was favorite hood anthems and records that's in the streets that everybody was listening to.
Right.
Because I tell people all the time, a lot of cats from down south, they was really just East Coast cats first, because we used to rock the Timbs and the Jabro jeans
Right.
with the North Faces and the New York fitted. So I tell people all the time, a lot of people that really rock with the East Coast like that, we really didn't catch on to the Southern rap until Outkast blow up like the World Trade. You know what I mean? So man,
Right.
how was it that time with that whole Streets is watching moving, Can't Not the Hustle moving, and